Hello and welcome back to the Farg Motor Pool. In this video we'll be looking at our Fardier. We have done a basic restoration of the vehicle since we saw you last. So here's a quick recap of how we started out. We found the Fardier in a garage, left without any love or attention for a number of years. So we rescued it, we'll say in inverted commas, brought it back to our workshop to do some work on it. So I did manage to have a quick test drive once we got the vehicle back.
It is a killing machine. This thing is so dangerous. Oh my days, I've never been anything so unprotected and so quick. I don't know, I've only got into third. There's 4 gears on this thing. I'm just lost for words, absolutely. Let's crack on, I want more of it.
See, there I was, one would even say, slightly overexcited about driving the Fardier. But it had a lot of issues. The temperature was skyrocketing on the engine and it was leaving vast pools of oil wherever we parked it. So it was decided we need to have that engine out and have a look what the issues were. On the back of the engine there's a bracket. It's holding, what is it, the accelerator,
throttle linkage.
and throttle linkage. Bracket spans between the gearbox and the engine. We've got to take those out. Is it what? It's a couple of bolts, isn't it, in there? That's probably what's stopping us separating the engine and taking it out. So we'll have a look.
There we go. It mounts on the gearbox mount. Right there. Overlaps the bell housing.
So just got to take that out.
Yeah, that should come out now. Like that.
Oh, there we go. Engine's out. All right.
Oh, I just dropped that.
Okay, so engine's disconnected. We're just trying to get it out of the frame. A few brackets and cables that had to be disconnected, and then it was on to just basically cleaning it so we could inspect, see what the issues were. So don't fear power washing it. It's not going to get water inside of it or do any serious damage because we are going to take the whole thing apart anyway. So it was decided that once the engine was out, it really would need to have a thorough going through. So Jez, my mechanic's giving me a hand there, and he's extremely experienced on working on vehicles, but usually much larger than these excavators and dumpers, etc. Even worked in a South African gold mine for a while. Good old Jez. So this is one of the smallest engines he'd ever come across. I think we've got sort of 2 horsepower, obviously, de chevaux, and he started to take it apart. Now, really simple. There are just, you would need a screwdriver, a couple of spanners and a hammer, and off you go. A very basic engine and really lightweight as well. Actually a marvel of mechanical engineering. And there I am just having a look inside at just the simplicity of it all. There we go. There's all the bits and bobs. So first thing we noticed was there was an enormous amount of just dirt, oil mixed with vegetation and detritus that needs to be cleaned out. And it seemed that the engine really, the reason for overheating is it was absolutely choked with dirt. You can see it here. So the first thing was to set about getting this dirt off. These are the cooling fins because obviously it's an air-cooled engine, so it's absolutely key that it has good airflow. Off have come the cylinders. We're just having a look there at the tops of the pistons. They don't actually look too bad, to be honest, but the fact is if we've got the engine apart and we're going to buy in parts, we might as well do the whole thing. Just showing me there, the cylinders aren't that bad, but they were quite worn, so it was burning a bit of oil as well. So as he set to rebuilding or stripping down the engine, I was set to, and you can see there my lackluster performance is I'm trying to scrape out enormous amounts of, well, just junk out of the engine. That's just out of one side and one cylinder, so you can see why we're having issues. So parts were ordered on the net, wasn't very difficult. There's a new oil cooler and there were new cylinders and new pistons and new seals and etc. etc. And the whole bill came to about £500 sterling. So that's not a lot of money to spend on an engine. I'm used to spending, to be honest, in the thousands. So to be able to have such cheap parts readily available is an absolute godsend. Now, underneath wasn't looking too great. Here we have our, well, prop shaft, our CV joints as well, and they had, or were worse for wear. The rubber boots here had split. Luckily, looking underneath, you can see that the grease had kept some sort of integrity into the actual joint itself, but these really had to come out. Very simple, sort of 6 bolts on one end, pokes out, and when I got them onto the table, very interested to see that when I was removing the old boots, they were actually 2 at a time, one covering the other. This must have been to help protect those CV joints should the boots get split whilst being used off-road. So what I'm doing here is I've cleaned everything. There was no need to replace any mechanical parts. It was really new grease into the joints and new boots to go over the top, all readily available off of the internet. And there we are, putting that constant velocity drive shaft back in place. Meanwhile, Jez was outside replacing the rear oil seal in the back of the engine, which had been dropping all the oil onto the floor. And here I am now on a very hot day here in the UK, giving it a good coat of paint. So we did a base primer and then went over in a basic green, and now we're finishing off with what I would describe as the 3-tone camouflage used by the French. This paint is actually French and is used, well, was used by them mostly for painting their aircraft. So I managed to purloin 3 cans, what I describe as Kermit grey, a matte black, and there is a sort of coffee coloured brown as well. So here I am asking for Ollie to come over and give me some support, as I was very hot and bothered on this day. But the paint went off really, really nicely, and so it really is one of my favourite jobs actually. This particular Fardier's had quite a life. This is where the engine goes. So here we've got the gearbox. You can see we've got some leakage down here in the steering box. So we need to have a look at that. That's actually out of a Citroen, I think it's HS van. So that's really good, we can get the parts for it. Over here as well, there's a strengthening part. It seems to be in red. I was wondering whether perhaps this has had an earlier life in the fire service, but not, as it turns out. This is just primer. But can you see this weld here? Sort of a stick weld. Very, very, well, not very well done, to be absolutely honest. Compared to the other side, sort of the factory weld, very, very neat. So it looks like thump here in the back at some point, or this is cracked. This has been replaced. Someone's painted it with red primer and then on with the green paint. Also around the back, on the back of these, you actually have a flap where the number plate is, and this folds down. And inside here is where the spare wheel goes. So we're going to go in slightly. If anyone can notice the obvious mistake, someone's fitted a heat shield on the outside because the body's actually fiberglass, and they've used these self-tapping screws. But you can actually see I've just unhooked it. That screw went through the electrical system, through the wiring loom, so that wasn't a great move. So what we need to do is to take these off. We'll get rid of those horrible points. And we'll reattach that heat shield, because obviously there was a reason for it being there in the first place. So that's another job to do today. So time to put the engine back in. Jez managed to get the whole thing reassembled in just a number of hours. As he said, a very simple engine to work on, and doesn't weigh a great deal, but using the forklift here anyway to make things a bit easier for ourselves. So up it goes, whiz it round, drop it back in. And let's get the thing fired up. We've obviously got running in oil, and we need to do a few 100 miles to bed it in, but let's just listen to the engine running. The roar of those 2 4 There's the engine whisperer. We moved on to the electrics after the engine. You can see an absolute rat's nest in the back behind the dash. Don't know how much of this was original or been put in since service. Who knows? New lights have gone on. And then I needed to look at the brakes.
The great thing about the Fardier being so light is I can use the forklift to lift it up, so I don't have to crawl around on the floor to change the brake discs and the pads. So they're quite straightforward. They're acting inboard on the axle up here, so it's both at the front and at the back. You can see actually there's the disc here, then we've got the brake shoes, the brake calipers, sorry, and then we've got the pads inside. So it should be just a simple matter of undoing them, taking them off. First of all, you obviously have to release the CV or the prop shaft so we can get at it. So I'll crack on. One side's done. Then we've got the new brake disc, put the new pads in as well. The brake calipers are made of two separate parts and they come apart, and that enables you to get the disc out. Doing that, of course, then all the shoes dropped on the floor and rolled away somewhere. The clip that actually holds the brake pads in flew off, and the whole thing just fell to bits. Fluid started pouring out of it. Didn't catch it on camera. I was too busy trying to stop losing all the fluid. Put it back together again. It's taken a long time. I've had to shim up this particular brake caliper. It was too close to the disc, and therefore when the pads had worn down, it actually rubbed this actual caliper on the disc and caused grooves in it. So I've had to shim it and just bring it slightly away from the disc so it runs a little bit easier. I'll do the other side now. So I've been on this one about over an hour, what I thought was quite a straightforward job. So I've got 4 of these to do, so probably see you tomorrow.
There we are, all 600 cc's of it, air-cooled delight. The Fardier is now finished. There we are, some photographs taken. Electrics are now working. The engine's running really sweetly, starts really well. Temperature's fantastic on it. You can see the brakes are, if anything, a little bit too sharp. I'm sure they'll bed in as I use it a bit more, but not bad. I think it took us in total about 14 days. It was an absolute delight to work on, and hopefully you'll be able to see it at a show near you. This is what it used to look like, and now this is what it does look like. Quite a transformation. Now, is it easy to drive? Let's find out. Here we go. My son, 11 years old, he's able to handle it, so I think the answer to that is yep, pretty straightforward. Wish he'd keep his hand on the steering wheel there. Let's have a word with him. So there we go, great fun. As I said, we will be taking this actually to Tankfest 2024. There we are, just practicing fitting it on the back of the lorry. So onwards and upwards. Our next restoration will be launching the video soon. As I said just a moment ago, we are at Tankfest 2024. Do come over, say hello, and you'll be able to see this vehicle. Also be able to see the rest of the gang will be there, because obviously it's not just who are doing the work. There are a whole host of other people supporting me, so thanks very much to them. Please do like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, as that really does help us. Thanks very much, and ta-ta for now.